Hello, YouTube. This is Mahadeva, the OG Thunder Wizard. All right, so I want to talk to you about a really cool concept that I haven't thought about for a while. And the reason I haven't thought about it for a while is because I have been enjoying being a physical human being. I've been focused, probably the past decade, I've been focused on, let's see, let me get this out of the way. I've been focused on enjoying being in my physical body and doing physical things, having marriages and relationships and all that kind of stuff. But there was a period of time I was celibate for, 6.5 years, and I was deeply involved in some very intense, esoteric, mystical energy practices, and a lot of intense, crazy things happened, and I got to a level where I decided that I wasn't done being human. What I mean by that is I wasn't done being in my physical body. And I wanted to engage more with people and life and all that kind of stuff. So I pulled back on a lot of those things that I did. There was a lot of other stuff going on which you don't need to worry about. And recently, past week or two, I've picked up some of my other esoteric practices that have to do with changing energy and all that kind of stuff. And so now I'm starting to think about all of those things that I wanted to achieve. I wanted to achieve things similar to the rainbow body that you hear about. So that's why I'm talking about it today. So I'm going to talk to you about what we know about these things and what some people say you can achieve when you do this. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my notes here so that I can see you and look at my notes all at the same time. Let's try this. There we go. Now I got my notes. All right, so there's different kinds of bodies out there. There's the rainbow body, there's the golden dragon body, and every school has some version of this. I'm going to share with you what was what I heard from my teachers about this practice that I got involved in. And without getting too specific, they claimed that the masters of this, when they had achieved a certain level of power in their physical life, that they would die. They would physically die, and they would resurrect themselves. And they would do things like, bury them under the ground. And, again, I have no idea how true this is or not. I just remember this is what I was being told. And that, after being buried for 30 days or something, they'd exhume the coffin and open the lid, and then nobody'd be in there. Poof, they'd be gone. And they'd be walking around like a normal person, but they would, you might see them as a normal person, but they might do things like walk through walls and all kinds of stuff like that. And so I don't know, what they called that. They didn't have, by the way, let me just say this. The practice that I do, that I learned, is something you'll never find anywhere. You won't find it in any books. You won't find it in any, history. If you go looking for it, there isn't, a temple to this religion. And it was a thing that was handed down from master to student in a very small context, and all within the the umbrella of Taoism. I should say people really don't know what Taoism is. If you do a search on the internet for Taoism, like for instance, do this search. Say, what do Taoists believe about life after death? And you'll find people, you'll just find these answers like, oh, Taoists don't believe in that you just become one with the universe. Or they'll say things like, if you ask, what is the God of Taoism? They'll say, oh, Taoism doesn't have a God. And none of that is even close to being accurate. Taoism is an umbrella term for hundreds, if not thousands, of different regional, sometimes family religions that could be anywhere from a meditative tradition to an energy tradition to a religious tradition where you're doing ceremonies, to black magic, to could be anything. All of this is Taoism. And there never was like a Taoist church. What started happening in the early Middle Ages is that certain emperors would get aligned to a certain sect of Taoism, and then that sect would become, the popular one. And so then from those popular ones, then they started codifying things, and then now you can go, if you go to China, you can go to Wudangshan or Huashan or whatever and see where these mountains were. But there never was a Taoist religion. Point of that is the thing that I learned is one of those things that you're just not going to find anywhere unless you're lucky enough to run into somebody and they invite you into their thing and then decide to teach you the real stuff. And even then you might not get the real stuff. And so that's all over the world. You've got that stuff going on everywhere. Usually in places that have an unbroken connection into prehistory. Like if we were to go to Africa, the drumming tradition that I learned is not something you're going to find. It's one of those things. You go looking for it, you're not going to find it. But when you learn how to practice those rhythms and you do it right, stuff happens. And, portals to other dimensions open up. So if you find powerful traditions anywhere in the world, they're going to have something like this rainbow body, golden dragon body, something like that. But I want to talk to you about the rainbow body, or achieving a light body, because I do believe that these kinds of things are possible. And so the rainbow body is real popular. If you look for that, you can find that. That's associated mostly with Tibetan Buddhism. But I'm going to share with you what some of the things that I saw looking into it, which based on my experience, I think are possibilities. So according to one understanding of the rainbow body, the way to achieve it is first you have to work with the 5 elements. So within your body, you have 5 major organs. You have the heart, the liver, the lungs, liver, lungs, kidney, stomach. Is that right? Heart, liver, lungs, kidneys, stomach. Did I get everything? So at each one of these 5 elements have to do with the creation of the universe. And so when you work with the 5 elements within your body, number one, it's extremely healthy, because these 5 major organs are the things that keep you alive. And without one of them, pick one. Any one of them, you're gone. It's over. So if you have them all working together, just on a physical level, you're going to be healthy. But to fully appreciate and understand what the 5 elements are and how they function within you and why it's so important for you to have a relationship with them, is we have to look at how the universe was created. So the manifestation of the universe, if you'd like to use that word, maybe that's better, is that before there was anything, there was nothing. Physics says this. Before there was a big bang, we don't know. An indefinable, there was a point where all mass and energy was so minuscule that it couldn't be measured. And then, poof, it exploded into manifestation. So in the beginning, you have nothingness, which is pure potential. From that pure potential, you get the one. So that would be the first moment that something we would call the Big Bang starts to come into existence. That all energy and mass is now, has come into manifestation, so much so that it has to explode into existence. So from the nothing, you get the one. From the one, you get the two. The two is the opposite forces, the yin, the yang, the light, the dark. In my ethnic tradition, they called it the drop of water and a spark of fire. And so from the Gnunga gap, the one, the emptiness, you get the two, the yin and the yang. From the yin and the yang, you get the three. And this is the basis. Now you're starting to get into the basics of all religion. Because all religions, at some point, if you go far enough back in time, there will be a trinity of some kind. In the Norse, it's Odin, Vili, and Ve. In the Hindu tradition, it's Shiva, Brahma, Vishnu. In the Taoist tradition, it's the three ones or the three forces, which are reflected in everything, including heaven, earth, and man. These are the three forces of the universe. Even Christianity had to invent a trinity, because in the Old and the New Testament there is no such thing as a trinity. It doesn't exist. That was imposed upon it by Christians, because I believe that they just couldn't tolerate the thought of there not being a trinity, because that had been their ancestral tradition for tens of thousands of years. So from nothing comes the one, from the one comes the two, from the two comes the three. And that's where we focus our intentions when it comes to divinity. It'll always come down to the three. And then from the three comes the five. So the five elements, as you know of them, we have to put them in terms that we understand. So we talk about them in terms of physical elements. That's a Greek word, a Greek thought idea, element, because they were, when they were trying to become scientists way back when, they were thinking, well, everything is made up of these five base elements. On a spiritual perspective, the five elements really could be called five forces or five phases, which means as energy shifts, it'll shift between one of these five phases. And so you know of them as ether, air, fire, water, and earth. Ether and air can also be exchanged with wood and metal. It's the same thing. So these are forces that matter functions within one of these five ways, or is in the process of evolving from one form to another in one of these five ways. The ether is expansion. It's also the least dense. So from the least dense to the most dense, you go from ether to air. So ether to air, from air to fire, from fire to water, and then from water to earth. And so energy is either expanding, because ether is expansion, air is contraction, fire is rising, water is falling, and earth is centering. So energy moves in this process. What I just described to you is how energy manifests from least dense to most dense. It is also, if you want to use the five elements in a magical form for cleansing or for fighting evil spirits, negativity, ghosts, you would use that. Ether, air, fire, water, earth, in that progression. If you want to use it for healing, for healthy healing, just to feel good and all that kind of stuff, then you go in a different progression. You go from ether, fire, earth, air, and water. You go in that progression in order to just build and have things be happy and functioning. So you go from nothing to the one, from the one to the two, from the two to the three, from the three to the five, and then from the five you go to infinity. So from the five comes everything. So working with the five elements is very important if you want to achieve any kind of rainbow body scenario. And it starts off with first you can start with the intellectual understanding, as I've just laid it out. But the great thing is that you have within your body. So here's something, a secret that you don't know about being human. Again, if you're one of those people that complains about being human and you want to never be human again and you want to be freed from this matrix, you are missing out big time. Don't get me wrong, you might be going through some painful challenges in this life, and I don't minimize any of that. But the human body is the most powerful energy manifester, capacitor. It is the most powerful gateway of energy in the universe. Every conscious being in the universe either wishes they were human or they've already been human and achieved a level of transformation as a result of being human. So seriously, I want you to have all of your feelings, which is we're going to talk about. I want you to have all of your pain, your sadness, your fear, your confusion. I don't want to minimize any of that, but stop complaining about it, because all of those emotions are energy that you can use. In fact, you're here to use all of your emotions in order to accomplish this rainbow body. It's the whole point of it. Now, if you don't have a meditative or energetic practice, then the odds of you being able to use those emotions to be able to achieve this powerful state of achieving a light body is virtually impossible. So that's why most people, if they're not uncomfortable, then they're just sort of kind of dealing with it. Till you understand that these can be harnessed, that these are powerful energies that you can harness and then focus through the human body, because without a human body you can't do it. You have to be a human and have these things that we call the five organs. The base level of the five organs is to deal with, food and oxygen and air and blood and all that. But that's just the basic. That's just that's just turning the switch on and now the machine is running. So imagine that you have this machine that if you play with the dials enough, you can get it to take energy of any kind and transform it into this pure, powerful light that is more powerful than anything you could comprehend. That's your human body. The five organs are these dials that you can play with. Now, the direct access to these is your emotions. And so there's five basic emotions that are associated with these five elements, with these five organs. So ether has to do with spirituality. So that, if you think about somebody who's very spiritual, those emotions, nobility, generosity, feelings of expansion, of acceptance, all of that, sacrifice, these kinds of feelings and these kinds of thoughts are associated with the ether, which is your liver. So you think about, what does the liver do in the body? It processes toxins, right? It takes toxins out of the food that you eat and then, gives you energy that you can use. And so the negative side of the liver is resentment. A lot of people say it's anger. It's not anger. It's resentment, which is different. Resentment means that you got angry about something and then you couldn't let go of it. And then it's something that you mull over and you can't stop thinking about it. I mean, I still find myself, I'm sure on a daily basis, there's at some point during my day where I will rehearse something I should have said to somebody 20 years ago. That's a form of resentment. And so your resentments keep you attached. This is why alcoholics are so angry. Alcoholics are angry because they drink alcohol, which destroys the liver. In fact, it turns it into a stone. And the interesting thing about alcohol is that it preserves everything that's dead and kills everything that's alive. So that's the perfect example of somebody who's just stuck in resentment. And that's why they keep drinking, because it keeps them in that state of... Because the universe is constantly pushing you on an energetic level to drop all of your garbage. And the way it does that is by thrusting reality in your face. And this can be a very challenging process, which is why we live in cities. You think we live in cities for whatever reason. Originally, people created cities to be, safe from all of the, the saber-toothed tigers and the bears and then maybe other people. But the truth is, we live in cities so that we can come together and protect each other from the onslaught of infinity. Because infinity, the energy coming from infinity, is constantly pushing you to let go of your attachments to your delusions, to your individuality, so that you can become infinite. And that feels like death to us, and we don't like that. And so we come together as people, and then we create these, like we're going through this election right now. Think about it. This election in the United States really shows that the whole idea of democracy is a gentleman's agreement. Now, if you're in the United States, right now they still haven't come to a decision, and Donald Trump is threatening basically that he's not going to leave, and that if they don't vote him back into office, that he's going to decide that it's no longer valid. And he's making these threats like he's going to not leave. He's barricaded himself into, the White House, and he's challenging every vote that isn't for him, and he wants to. But it's up until this point in United States history, it's been a gentleman's agreement, which is why at some point somebody concedes. There's no law. There's no law written in the Constitution that says that once you've been voted out, the army's going to come in and take you out. There's nothing. We don't even know. If he decides, I'm not leaving, we don't know what would happen. Assuming he gets voted out. The votes haven't been counted yet. But when all the votes get counted, as it looks like he's going to get voted out, if he decides not to go, we don't know what to do then, because it's a gentleman's agreement. And we live with these agreements. When you drive on the road, if you're in the United States, there's a gentleman's agreement that you will drive on the right side of the road, even though we call it a law, but you can't enforce that. If you decide to drive on the left side of the road and crash into somebody, nothing can stop you. We choose not to attack each other. We choose to wear clothes. We make all these choices about, everything. What we believe, what we don't believe. These are all choices that we agree on. And so we decided to come together and live in cities. And when we do that, we create this energy bubble, which is based on all of our agreements. Let's see, do I have any bills? Yeah, I do. So, I'm not from Australia, so when I see Australian money, it just looks like monopoly money to me. It doesn't look real, which can be a problem because I'll just dole it out and pay for stuff, and because it doesn't feel like anything. It's actually got a lot of plastic in it. It feels fake. But here in Australia, there is a gentleman's agreement that this particular piece of plasticky paper is worth $5 Australian. But the only thing that gives this value is that I and other people here, because we live on this giant, huge island, we all agree that this has $5 value, which, that can buy me a sandwich, maybe, if I'm lucky. more like half a sandwich. But we create these agreements just to be able to function. Because the reason why is because we're afraid of infinity. We're afraid of dealing one-on-one with infinity. If you don't believe me, then I give you a challenge. Please do this safely. Don't just go off and do it without doing it safely. Maybe work your way slowly. But when I was in California for the majority of my life, at least once a year, I would go off into the Sierra Nevada mountains, deep into the wilderness. And I'd either hike there, I'd put everything on my back and hike up over 14,000 foot passes and go deep into the forest, or I'd hire a guy, with horses and mules to just lug all my stuff and drop me off, 20 miles in the middle of, the wilderness. And then I was by myself in very powerful wilderness. I would be by myself for 2 weeks at a time. Now that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but trust me, after 3 days, you're going crazy. If you're by yourself, you don't have a phone, you don't have television, you don't have radio, you don't have internet, you don't have another person to talk to, you just have yourself and all of this power coming from the rocks and the trees and the lightning and it gets intense really fast. And that's assuming you have food. If you don't have food, then you gotta, So it's a whole different deal. And at the end of those 2 weeks, I would be completely different. And what would happen is right about 6 days, it would take about 6 days. And then on the 6th day, my head would pop open. And I would realize this is all nonsense. It's all bullshit. Everything. Who I think I am, what I'm supposed to be, what a good person is, what success is, money, politics. It's all made up bullshit. None of it is real. It's only real because we decide that it's real. And we decide that these things are real so that we can protect ourselves from infinity. So the point I'm trying to make here is that if you want to achieve this light body thing, you're going to have to deal directly with infinity. So let me address something. I understand why people want to escape this matrix, this human life. I do understand. And I understand why people become really attracted to these kinds of things. So if you go onto YouTube, you're going to find no shortage of light body, ascension, all that kind of stuff. And everybody wants it. But you want it for the wrong reasons. It's not a wrong reason to go after it. So you should go after it. Regardless of whatever reason drives you, go after it. But at some point, if you don't do it because the thought of it gives you joy, it won't work. If you're doing it because you're wanting to get away from life, at some point you're going to hit a brick wall and you're not going to get very far. Because you don't understand that all of these things that you're trying to escape from are actually the building blocks that you use to achieve the light body. So the 5 elements, working with these different emotions, working with expansiveness, and then working with contraction, which is the lungs. So the lungs will give you an ability to discern the right from wrong, what is real, what is false. But the downside of that is that it can, the shadow side of that is it'll make you depressed. So depression, like people who cough, like the whole world is trying to run away from this disease that makes you cough. That is a manifestation of deep, deep, deep sadness. The whole world is sick. The whole human race is coughing, or they're trying to avoid coughing. It means that there's deep depression in the world, and it's finally manifested in a worldwide pandemic. And the depression comes from isolation. And if you think about it, and I've seen this, I've been alive long enough to see this. Because when I was a kid, I sound like an old man. I've finally become one of those old men. When I was a kid, back in my day, we had telephones that were stuck on the wall, and we had televisions, and we had radios, and that was as close as we got to anything associated with the internet. And the telephone, you didn't even. I mean, the whole idea of having a message machine, like a tape recorded message machine, we didn't even think about that. We had a pen and paper next to the phone. Somebody called and they weren't there, and you said every day you would say this phrase, which you don't say anymore. And there are people, generations of people who've never had to say this phrase on a daily basis, which is so-and-so there? On a daily basis, you would have said that 5 or 6 times. So you'd call up your friend and somebody would answer the phone. Hi, is John there? No, he's not. Call back later. Or if you were lucky, no, he's not. Can I take a message? Yes, tell him that Mike called. Okay, I'm writing down. And then you'd go by and look next to the phone to see if somebody had called for you. That was our message machine. If you wanted to listen to music, you could turn on the radio and you had to listen to whatever they put on the radio. I mean, unless you had, a record player. And we had television. And television, where I was lucky, I was in Los Angeles County, we had 13 channels. And of those 13 channels, you had 3 or 4 that, you had 3 national channels. So the point I'm trying to make is that, it was a different world. Even then, it was a different world. You had an interaction with your world. But with the advent of now, the way that people function. I mean, you go look at sit next to any bus stop, you'll see 2 kids sitting next to each other, both on their phones, not even connecting with each other. They might even be texting each other as they're sitting next to each other. And so we have now at least 2 generations of people who are completely isolated, because we say that the internet connects us. What it really does is it isolates us. It connects us on an intellectual level, but not on a real level. There's no interaction. You're not sitting next to somebody and feeling the energy coming off of them. You're not picking up on the vibes that are coming from them. You're not even unconsciously picking up on the pheromones that are coming off that let you know that they're safe or they're angry or, ready for mating or whatever it is. We've lost all of that. And so we are now isolated. And what have we manifested? We've manifested this pandemic where we have to isolate, where you can't go and talk to somebody and touch them. And you can't do that because you might get them sick or they might get you sick. And then you might go and get grandma and grandpa sick. And so we're living in this, we've manifested our internal experience that we've been creating. I would say that COVID is a manifestation of the isolation that has come from the internet. And everybody thinking they can get everything they want from the internet. Never have to leave the house. Now you're forced to stay in the house and get everything from the internet. Everything is a result of our projection. So I've kind of gotten off of where we were, but point is that I want to focus today on achieving the light body through the fusion of the 5 elements. And so according to some people, when you've achieved the rainbow body, some of the things you can notice is that the person won't cast a shadow. At death, their body will shrink, or at death, their body will sort of collapse in on itself and it will just release fragrances, good fragrances like flowers or something like that. In other traditions, like in the one I talked about, where you don't lose your body disappears, and then you have this body that will go through walls or whatever it is. Some traditions will say that when you achieve this highest level of this transformation, that the only thing that's left will be a pile of clothes, hair, and fingernails. All the things that are dead. All the cells that are living will be transformed, and then there's nothing left of the person. And in order to accomplish this, we're going to have to do what most people are trying to escape when they seek after these kinds of things. So the first thing that I want to help you with is this idea of fusing the 5 elements. And it really means processing all of your thoughts and your feelings and emotions. The most direct way to do that is to work with the 5 organs as though they are living beings that live inside of you. And you learn to have a relationship with them. So the base level is to, start with, how you eat, right? The foods that you eat. And not taking in, again, this is a really good reason. I know a lot of people out there think they're accomplishing something spiritual when they smoke weed or drop acid or eat mushrooms or do peyote or ayahuasca and all that. And really, those are so damaging. Every single one of those hallucinogens are so damaging to the body, to the 5 organs. And so that's not gonna, you might, if you're lucky, you might have an experience that might be actually spiritual. More than likely, you'll have a delusionary experience. But assuming you had, under the right conditions, you might have an experience. But you will have to pay a price on a physical level. So the easiest thing to do is to live cleanly. Don't do alcohol, don't do tobacco, don't do drugs, don't do crappy food. And that's the beginning of it. And then you can do these energy practices that fill your body with energy, and then you can now use that energy and give that to your 5 organs. And you can communicate with your 5 organs, and your 5 organs will communicate with you via your emotions. So what we do in the West is we deny our emotions. We've been taught not to have them. And there's a whole slew of people out there who think that they're being spiritual, and they use the word love and light, and that is a word that they use, or a phrase that they use to deny their uncomfortable feelings. I've had no shortage of experiences with people whom, when I'm dealing with them, I'm saying, hey, we need to get real here. What is going on with this? Or here's what I'm sensing in you about that. You know me, I do that. I can tell when you're angry. I can tell when you're kissing my ass. I can tell when you're, and so, hey, let's deal with it. People say, hey, I'm just not going to go there. I refuse to go there. I'm all love and light. Well, they're just denying their feelings. Your anger is something you can use to achieve enlightenment. So I want to change your thoughts on that. Your anger can help you become enlightened. Your fear can help you become enlightened. Your sadness, your confusion. So the 5 elements are you've got the liver, which deals with resentment. You've got the lungs. The negative side of that is sadness or depression. The heart, the negative of the heart is impatience and flashes of anger or judgmentalism. The kidneys, the negative side of the kidneys is fear and lack of trust. And the negative side of the stomach is confusion and inability to comprehend. All of those feelings, when they come up, are things you can use to achieve this rainbow body. So you should be grateful every time you have a feeling. Every time a feeling pops up, a good one, a bad one, doesn't matter. It's this energy. It's just, 2 sides of the same coin. The coin is the coin. On one side is the pleasant feeling, on the other side is the unpleasant feeling. Now, it is true, at some point we want to transform those negative feelings into positive ones, but that is not going to be done through denial or through trying to control, because that's the other way. One way is people try to deny their feelings. The other way is to try and control. And they try to control other people or situations in order to, because if you do things my way, I'll feel good. So that doesn't work either. But having all of your feelings, regardless of what they are, without judging them, is power. In fact, my teacher's teacher in this the spirit fighting art that I am now practicing again, he asked us once, he said, so how do you feel when your girlfriend breaks up with you? Does it make you sad? Do you dislike that? And we all said, yeah, that's horrible. He says, I love it. Because those emotions I put into my practices and it gives me power. Now, he may not have realized what he was saying, but what he was saying was that when he experiences those negative feelings and puts it into the energy practice, he actually transforms them. There's pure energy in there, and you can transform that energy into this light energy that we're talking about. And so having communication with your organs, one of the Taoist practices is to do what's called the inner smile. And it's real simple. You just close your eyes, you breathe long and deep, and then you just smile to every organ. You imagine your brain and you smile internally. You smile you don't do this physically. There might be a slight smile on your face, barely perceptible, but it's the feeling of sending a loving smile to your brain, and you wait until your brain smiles back. And you'll feel it. You'll feel, and they might just kind of be sitting there, and then they don't, because most people don't pay attention to their organs. And then if it'll be sitting there and it'll notice you noticing it, and they'll go, oh, hi. And it'll smile back, and you'll feel this sort of happy wave come back. And then you move down to anywhere, any part of your body you can do this, but you can do it with the major organs. And then you move down to the lungs, and then the heart, and then the liver, and the kidneys, and the stomach. And you do that, and when they smile back at you, then you've created a connection. If you're in pain, you can go and talk to different, if you've got pain that erupts in different parts of your body, you can close your eyes and go to those places and say, hey, what's up? Why are you upset? What are you angry about? What are your feelings? And if you listen, it'll tell you. I can remember when I really got a hold on, when I was married, I had a lot of tendonitis, really bad tendonitis. And of course, I was told by all the doctors that was because I had done martial arts and, it was from playing percussion too hard or whatever it was. And, the micro tears and this, and you're just going to have to get used to it and all that. And one of the things I did was as I had my left knee was just killing me. And I went and I just meditated and I went and asked it. And I said, what are you upset about? And it says, why are you holding me back? My left knee was telling me that it was angry because I was holding myself back. So you can listen to all the things in your body. Your body will communicate with you. So that's first thing is you got to get a relationship with your body. You have to be on a communication, open communication with your body and listening to all of the powerful beings that live within you, because each one of those organs is a capacitor for huge power. A power that can change everything. So fusion of the 5 elements is one, and that, people talk about that creating a rainbow body. And then you have, of course, the 7 chakras. The 7 chakras are not what people think they are. Again, they're not energy centers. You can meditate on them. There's nothing wrong with that. I teach in the 90-day challenge. Go to thunderwizard.com. I show you how to open your heart chakra. So you can do that. You can focus on your heart chakra. You can focus on whatever chakra you want, but that's not really the most powerful way to use them. The chakras are about becoming mature in the 7 realms of human interaction. So there's 7 realms of human interaction. Your base chakra is about your relationship to physical, material world, your security. Your second chakra is about learning how to connect to creativity and the beginnings of individuating and having your own personality. That's why teenagers always have to have the most radical hairstyle and whatever it is, because they're just coming in. They're coming out of being a child, and they're just coming into finding their own identity. And so they have to stand out from the crowd while at the same time they're trying to connect with other people on a sexual level. So the superficial connection and the superficial identity. So you have to learn what the lessons are there. And then you go to the navel, where you learn how to conquer your world and really find your true strength and your identity. And then once you've conquered the world, then you have to go to the heart center, which is about connecting with others and creating community. And then the throat, where you understand and speak your truth. And then the third eye, where you see the realms of true existence. And then the last chakra, where you lose all identity and become one. Those are levels of maturity. And then you have the three selves. And each one of the three selves, you have your lower self, which is your unconscious mind, your subconscious, which has all of your thoughts and feelings and emotions and, identity, who you are. I am this, I grew up there, the world is this way, and I am this, and I feel this way about this and that, and I'm a Republican and I'm a Democrat, and those are all in your lower self. And in the lower self is what people call the Dantian, which is the crucible that purifies life force energy. So it purifies, first your sexual energy comes in, and then your life force energy that you take in from the world. This is where you process it. And this is also, by processing it, you also learn how to become conscious of all those things in your lower self. And then you have the middle Dantian, the middle crucible, which is where your soul resides. So the infinite being of light that created the universe. If you want to call it God, you can call it God. Infinite, all-powerful being that created the universe lives right here. And that's your true essence, your original identity, your original self. And that is what we call the spirit. So it goes from the physical of the life force energy to the spirit, which is more soul energy. And then you have up here, which is intention. So when you get the energy past here, then you can bring it up here, and you can work on taking the energy. Now that this energy has been refined to a certain level, you can refine it even further. And then you have pure intention, where your thoughts become reality. And when all three of these are working together in conjunction with all the 7 chakras, in conjunction with all of the 5 organs, now you're at base level. Now you can start doing the work to achieve the rainbow body. And then when you have this all going, then you can do higher level practices, which will start making you more and more, beyond human. And the powers, then you've got this whole other lesson of what it's like to have superpowers. And you have to learn, the important lessons of power is not spirituality. And that's a whole other, and I've seen people fail that miserably. I could count off at least 3 people that I've seen who started achieving real powers, and they failed that test, with sometimes horrendous results. So that's one of the reasons why there's these fail-safe mechanisms that people don't immediately get there. Every single one of you listening to me has the building blocks. You have these capacitors in your body, the 5 organs, the 7 chakras, the 3 dantians. You have them. And if you know how to play with those knobs and get them fired up, you can become a superhero tomorrow. Might take you maybe longer than a day, but you can do it. But the first thing that has to happen is what I teach everybody. The first thing that has to happen is you have to change your assumption about your relationship to the universe. And if your assumption is that you are a victim and that the universe has it in for you, or that you are a prisoner in a matrix, or that you are here reincarnated because of sins, or because of archons who are trying to keep you from achieving life. As long as you hold on to any of that kind of victim mentality, you're done. It's never going to happen. Just give up. Just give up. If you change that assumption, which, by the way, you don't have to feel it. You don't have to feel like the universe loves you. You don't have to get yourself into that state of, okay, I feel the universe loving me. You don't have to get there. You just make the decision to just, from here on out, I'm going to assume that the universe loves me. That I, in fact, created the universe, and that everything in my life, challenging or pleasant, is my own creation. Even if I can't see how possibly I created it, I'm just going to assume that I did, because I am infinite God here in this body, wanting to have this experience of power. Start from that assumption. So first, drop all of the guilt, all of the misery, all of the anger and resentment. You can still have all your feelings, but drop, feeding those things. And anytime you start talking about, they did it to me, so you see what I mean? So maybe you didn't realize all this time I've been telling you to drop the victim mentality. And the people who want to argue with me about why they're victims, all they're doing is, you might as well be saying that what you don't want is to achieve the greatest power the universe has ever seen, and that you are denying that. And the way you deny it is by trying to convince me why you're born under these horrible circumstances and you are a victim, and it's not your fault that your life is the way it is. You're just going to stay there. You'll never get past that. So it's not an easy road to have all of your feelings, especially if you've got really challenging life circumstances, and to then be able to have the ability to go into those feelings, process them, and then transform them into pure light. It's not an easy task. But that's where you have to start from. If you start from there, then all of these feelings as they come through you, it's just like having all kinds of powers that you have to work with and meditate on and balance. And then you can fuse that energy. And this is really where the Dantians come into, these three energy centers. These three energy centers is when you're fusing all of that energy, and then through meditative practices, through energy practices, you can then mold that stuff, and then you start having real power. Then you start to see that you can do all kinds of crazy things that people wouldn't even think were at all close to being real. And that's when you get into the realm of these beings, these human beings that go off into caves or go off into the woods, or and meditate and practice. And then you hear these stories of these people coming out of the mountains that have all kinds of powers. That's how they got there. Now you can understand why it might take many lifetimes. Because it might take quite a few lifetimes for you to get over your fear, your ego, your childishness, and to be able to go, this life is about taking all of these challenging things and balancing them and then using them. Oh, now I get it. Takes a while. And then what you want to do when you've gotten to the place where you can interact with all of these forces within you and outside of you, positive or negative, you don't judge the energy coming to you. You use it, you bring it into your body, you learn how to, put it through all the meridians, etc., all that kind of stuff. Then you start using that to return to your original essence. So being a human, especially if you are unhappy, first off, I don't judge you for that. I have my own issues that I've gone through and continue to go through, so I understand. But if you have a challenging life, I forgot what I was going to say. What I was going to say is, if you're having that and you really identify with that, it means that you're in what I call the conditioned self. The conditioned self is the illusion. And the illusion can be positive, can be pleasant or unpleasant. It's still an illusion. You're king of the world and you have everything you've ever wanted. Now, interesting, if you study the lives of really famous successful people, you'll find that a lot of them are very sad and lonely. That all of the fame and all of the money has actually isolated them from other people and from themselves. And so that's why you end up with, some of them are really narcissistic and really, because they're constantly trying, they think if they get enough fame and enough money and enough notoriety and, that eventually that'll give them happiness, and it never does. So I can guarantee you that a lot of those really famous people in this lifetime, pick one, whichever one you want, Michael Jackson, in the next life he's not going to want to be famous. He's like, the last thing I want. I just want to be a person. So you'll find K2 probably in his 5th house or his 10th house. Because he won't want those things anymore. I'm talking astrology now. But that is your conditioned self. You bought into what you were told you were supposed to be. Your need, and we all have it, your need to be loved and accepted is going to drive you to want to see how you're supposed to be, how everybody wants you to be, and you're going to try and mold yourself into what you think is going to bring you love and success and attention. And then you get trapped into the false or conditioned self. And the lesson is to come to realize that that's all an illusion as well. It's something you've manufactured. So remember what I said early on, is that cities are about people coming together so that they can agree on these things that we think mean something. The idea of democracy, or the idea of, pick one. These are ideas that we come together and we give value to, and those shared agreements on those concepts give us a sense of safety, and they create an energetic dome. So that's why if you go to a different country, not only do they speak a different language and everything like that, but things feel different. People are different because they have slightly different agreements about what reality is. When you get out deep into the wilderness, like I said, spend 3 days by yourself in the wilderness and you'll find yourself starting to go crazy. It only takes 3 days. Probably after the first day, especially now. I'm talking, but probably now, because, even I am so addicted to I'm constantly checking my phone. I'm constantly checking, and I have nothing going on in my life. Other than my own personal stuff and my online, I don't have anything. So I don't need, I have this, and I'm kind of living this monk lifestyle, but I'm still totally, every 10 seconds. So nowadays it would be 24 hours. Go spend 24 hours by yourself in the wilderness and see how fast you start going crazy. So returning to your original essence is that infinity. And I'll tell you what that infinity is. I experienced it. I left my body when I was 7 years old. And I left my body and I floated up through the atmosphere. And I saw, just like they talk about, when you die, there was this bright white light. And I started being pulled towards it, or it started coming towards me. I don't remember what. I just know that light started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and then it enveloped me. And when the light enveloped me, it was the most orgasmically blissful, joyful experience of being. If I were to feel that now, my body would explode. I wouldn't be able to contain it within my body if I were to fully experience it, which might be exactly what we're talking about, achieving this light body. That might be why people's bodies disappear. And then I was released from that. The light let me go, and I was very upset. I didn't want to leave because I kept on saying, I'm home, I'm home. This is where I belong. I'm finally back, where I belong. And then the light let me go, and I fell back down through the atmosphere, and I woke up in my body, and I was very upset. But I came to realize years later that light was me. That was my soul. that I had experienced my soul without any of this physical thing here. And so now the task is getting back to that. And for me, the most powerful way to do that and the quickest way to do that is through these energy practices. Now, you may be different than me. Maybe you need to do it through love. Maybe you need to do it through spiritual service. Maybe you need to do it through chanting. Maybe you need to do it through emptiness meditation. For me, I need these very powerful energy practices because that's when I start to feel it. And that's when I start to feel like my body's shifting and changing. So as I'm sitting here right now, after having gotten back into it, it's kind of uncomfortable because my body is vibrating on this intense level. It's a little bit uncomfortable, but it's also very pleasurable. And that's the other great thing about this stuff is as you're working towards it, you can experience a lot of pleasure. Now, early on, while I was experiencing a lot of power in my body, I also would go through huge emotional turmoil. And sometimes after I'd practice, for sometimes 2 hours just straight doing these practices, intense, moving energy practices, I would then feel really good, and then I'd end up in the fetal position just because all of these feelings would come up out of me, and it was so intense. So it was very challenging. I'm not experiencing that yet. Now that I'm back into it, it's feeling all quite pleasant and comfortable. But it's because I've done all that work, and I've done things like had a therapist for 20 years, and I've done things like 12-step work for almost 40 years, and everything you hear me talk about. So I want you to get used to the idea that if you want to achieve this, it is going to be some work. And let me just be clear, if your motivation is to escape pain, it's okay to have that motivation. Just be prepared, though, that you may have to look at yourself. And the biggest block that I've seen in anything is people stop themselves. In fact, I can think of 2-3 people right now who I've worked with who, I get emails deciding that they can't work with me right now, they'll talk to me later. That's the kind of thing that happens, especially when you're right on the verge of achieving something. You have to go through that challenging, difficult, what I call unconscious resistance. Or sometimes it's conscious resistance. You're going to have to go through that wall of resistance. Now, the thing, if you have something like an energy practice that has a goal in mind, like the rainbow body, if you get that goal in your mind that I'm going to achieve that, then when you hit those walls, those won't stop you. You want to become Mr. Olympia, right? What weeds out most people, having to lift all those weights and take all those drugs, is that at some point it just becomes too much and people give up. You want to become, a world champion boxer of the world. You're going to have to be willing to fight against some really tough guys. You're going to have to train for hours and hours. You want to become champion Olympic athlete. You want to become the richest person in the world. You want to become president. You're going to have to push through that wall at some point. You're going to have to do that with your spiritual practice as well. So be very wary of anybody who says that they found the easiest path, because it's just not true. There are quick ways to achieve power, but power is not enlightenment. And I have to admit, I'm one of those people. I like power. I like the feeling of power. I like the feeling of I can feel all the cells in my body vibrating on this intense level. I love the idea of the superpowers that come with that. I won't lie to you. Those are all really enticing. And those are the carrot that my soul has chosen to keep me going towards that. But the end goal of all of it is to come back to your original essence. No matter what it is that you do, you have to come back to your original essence. And so get to the point where you've fully played out your conditional response, your conditional self, your illusionary self. Like I said, as I've been telling you guys, what I love the most is surfing. And right now I'm kind of having to play this balancing act between surfing and weightlifting and my energy work, and how much of that can I do together? And I'm going to have to make some compromises if I want to achieve something in this. I haven't decided what I want to do yet. But I also know that I'm going to have to fully play out my physical role, whatever that is. And when I've finally played it out and I've gotten everything that I want, then I'll give that up and I won't reincarnate again. So, the last part of this to achieve the rainbow body is allowing your physical body to reunite with what I'm going to call the universal body. Everything you see when you look out in the sky is your universal body. All of the stars, all of the planets, the ocean, the sky, the trees, the rocks, the animals, these are all things within you. In fact, even every other person is an extension of you. When you've gotten to the place where you have your internal universe of all the stars and everything inside of you, the 5 elements, when that matches up vibrationally with the stars and the planets and everything out there, then you no longer have this separation between you and infinity. And every practice, when you look at it, will have some version of that. Some version of that. And you can focus on different ways to get there. You can focus on the energy centers, these 3 energy centers. That can be your main focus, so you might want to become a Taoist. You might want to use the 7 chakras and get there through the psychological energy of Kundalini, which is dealing with how to become mature, how to deal with the heart center, for instance, and learn how to be one with everybody without having to take everybody into your religion, which is anybody that knocks on your door and says, "Hi, I'm here to give you the message of so-and-so," they're at the heart center, they're at the lower end of it. They don't understand that it's okay for you to have a different religion than them. But their intention is no, you don't understand. My heart center needs to connect with everybody, and if you do this path, that'll guarantee that you become part of my thing, and then I won't be alone. And then you see, Krishna is everything, or Jesus is everything, or Buddha is everything. And so therefore, those are people who are on the lower end of their heart chakra. When they get past that, they'll go, you can do whatever the hell you want. I see, I'm already part of you, man. So when you get to the point, whatever it is, whether you use energy work or whether you use the chakras or whether you use emptiness meditation or whatever the hell it is, that is going to allow you to get to the place where you merge your universe with the external universe and there is no more separation. And for me, the energy work, which is what I do, for me, the way that it feels is that the cells in my body start to vibrate on a higher level, on a different frequency. And what I'm seeking to do is to match the frequency of my body with the frequency of the stars. So that's a big, tall order. The stars vibrate at a very high frequency. So I want to get my cells of my body to vibrate at the frequency of the stars. And so I enjoy that. It's a very intense ride. It gives me all kinds of energy and powers and stuff like that. So that's fun for me. And if you're wanting to know how to do that, this is one way. There are 4 or 5 things that I teach here. And I don't just teach it, I do them with you. You press play and you do them with me. And there's 4 or 5 of them that even if you just took one of them by itself and just focused on that one exercise for 4 hours a day for the rest of your life, that could be the pathway that gets you there. So if you want to know how to do it, I teach it all the time. I teach it for free on the channel. I teach it on all the different Thunder Wizard, the shamanism. The discipline has to come in, and you're going to have to get past your wall. You might have multiple walls, but there's a wall that you're going to hit. It's going to make you want to stop. You're going to have to push past that. And then when you push past that, then you're going to have to deal with the temptations that come with that level of power. When you get to that, there's going to be temptations there. And those temptations can bring you down. So it's a really fun video game. Really, it's just like a video game. That's why we play video games, because it's just like what the soul does. Anyway, I'm starting to babble now, so we'll move on. This is a question and answer. I do take your honest questions. If you have a question, write the word question, and I'll be happy to answer it. Your best bet is to ask me an honest question. Anything other than that, and there's a good chance that I'm going to psychoanalyze you. And even when you ask a question, you run the risk of me psychoanalyzing you. And if I do that, it's because I want to help you learn how to ask the universe the right questions. Because learning how to ask the universe the right questions is key. And you first start by practicing with a teacher. And a good teacher will either directly or indirectly teach you how to ask them the right questions. So if I don't like your question, I'm going to let you know, and that's why. Anti-Kami. Question, can you achieve rainbow body without a teacher? Where is that coming from? Why would you ask that question? You're right next door to the college of, an electrician college, and you want to become an electrician. And you knock on the door of the electrician's college. Hey, is it possible for me to become a certified electrician without having to learn anything? Why? How does that question help you? You want to achieve rainbow body? You go to somebody that talks about it, knows about it, and you say, how do I do it? And then you do what they do. So for me to even answer that question, I first want to ask you, how does it help you to have a mindset that thinks like that? Don't get me wrong, I understand why you asked the question. But how does it serve you? There are no shortage of people out there who can give you a path to it. And that is the faster way. How the hell are you going to figure it out on your own? So I'm not going to answer the question except by saying, how does that question help you? Obviously, the thought process behind the question doesn't help you, and it makes me want to ask you why you don't want to have a teacher. Because that's your real issue. You don't trust people. You don't think you can do it. You don't think that they'll accept you. You don't know if you can find one. Those are the questions you need to be asking. Rika, the hopeful voluntarist. All right, I don't see a question there. Pono Ouija, have you come across... Okay, welcome to the channel. Pono, I can tell you're new. First off, I'm going to teach you how to ask the universe questions. You can't go to a teacher, go to any traditional teacher, walk into their dojo or their temple or whatever, and start asking them about another teacher or another tradition. They're going to say, thank you, I'm sorry, I can't help you. They'll ask you to leave, either nicely or they'll be rude about it. It doesn't serve you to ask me about somebody else. You're asking me potentially to talk out of my ignorance. So you're trying to push me into a corner where potentially I speak badly about somebody else. But I'm not that person. Ask me about what I teach. So I don't know who that person is. First off, I don't know who that person is. And have I come across it? What does it matter? How does that, if I say yes, how does that help you? Yes, I've heard of Walter Russell's explanation of, so what? How does that help you? Ask me about what I'm teaching. If you want to find out more from Walter Russell, go talk to him. I don't know who the person is. All right. Rika, that's not a question. Again, I'm looking for the questions. You didn't know that because I was talking for an hour. And we're not going to talk politics, guys. We're not going to do that here. Let's see. Joe01 question. Is there such a thing as light and dark ages? Yes. Cosmic wise or not? How long do those cycles last? The answer to your question is yes. My next answer to your question is, what does it matter? You are where you are right now. And light or dark, you can achieve everything that you can possibly imagine. Question is that what you're interested in? That's what I'm interested in. But the answer to your question is yes, there are light and dark ages. They represent, to answer your question, I think they last for different lengths, but I think 25,000 years or something like that per yuga or age. And when our galaxy, is it our galaxy or is it our solar system? When our solar system is closest to the galactic center, we are in a spiritual age. The furthest we are away, we are in a dark age. The closer we get, the lighter things get. Again, only looking for the questions. You guys don't know that, so you're saying all kinds of stuff here. Question, okay, so I don't see any questions here. Question, how can we banish the de facto parasites? I can tell you're new to my channel. You are making an assumption that there is such a thing. There are all kinds of things. There's evil spirits, etc., etc. Nothing can touch you without your unconscious request. So if you live in a world where there are de facto parasites, whatever that means, and that doesn't sound like a good thing. If you live in a universe where that happens, it means that on an unconscious level you have manifested them and requested them. So the way to banish it is first take full responsibility. Stop being a victim. Take full responsibility for everything that you've created. Edith the Wave question, how long does it take for someone to achieve a rainbow body? How should I know? Everybody's different. How many lifetimes? And how does that question help you? If I say it takes 45 minutes, are you going to go, oh, well, then I'll do it? And if I say, oh, it takes 1,000 lifetimes, are you going to give up? And the question, are there any faster or slower methods? How does that question help you? If I say, yes, there are faster methods, obviously you're going to go, well, I want the fast one. I mean, it takes however long it takes. The whole point of it is to learn how to be 100% in the moment. And you can be 100% in the moment regardless of where you are in the process. So if you can get rid of the idea of how long and when and how fast and just enjoy where you're at, you'll be that much more there. Because what the whole point of it, the end result of this rainbow body, the end result is that you are in a state of pure joy and bliss. So the question is, what do you need to do to achieve a state of joy or bliss from your soul? You might be different than me. I've achieved it in multiple different ways. And, I've picked a path that works for me. So that question doesn't help you either. Question you should be asking is, what is the best path for me right now? and don't think about the end. Don't think about the end result. No more questions. All right, so if you're not going to ask me questions, then I either have to sell you stuff or entertain you. So, the 90-day challenge. Go to thunderwizard.com, click around until you find the button that talks about the Warrior 90-day challenge. I created that because I realized as I was doing all this talking and doing all this teaching, I'm trying to talk you guys into this state of, where I think you need to be in order to be able to intend your reality. I realized that for some people, they need energy. And even though I have no shortage of energy exercises all over my channel, free and otherwise, there's still, again, I keep running into people. It frustrates me because I want you guys to get it. And so when people don't get it and I see them stopping and turning around and walking away, which I have to say is the majority of people I work with, not all of them, but the majority of them, at some point they end up walking away. In order to overcome that, I realized that people need energy. They need the ability to bring in the energy to shift the level of the vibration in their cells so that they have the power to make decisions that goes past their limitations. So for that, go to thunderwizard.com and click around for Warrior 90-Day Challenge. You can subscribe for a month if you want and then unsubscribe if you don't like it. But I can guarantee you if you do those exercises with me, because this is stuff I do on a daily basis, if you do those exercises with me for at least 30 days, I guarantee a massive shift. Whether you can handle the shift or not, I can't promise that. I hope you will hang in there because it will change you, it will shift you. And the end result of those things is that you have more power to create and intend your reality exactly the way you want it. And you get to shift and change all the things inside of your body, all the things inside of your psyche, all the things in your emotions, and you can then get closer and closer to that end game of achieving the light body, whatever the hell that means to you. All right, so what I'm going to do now is, because I'm going to wait, if you have any more questions, I'll give you an opportunity to write them because I know that there's a delay. While we're waiting, I'm going to have my friend come on and tell you why you need to subscribe to this channel.
Hey there, this is Arnold. I have a very important announcement. I command you to listen to me. This is Arnold Swears He's Bigger, and I'm here to tell you something very important. You must go to thunderwizard.com YouTube channel, subscribe and hit the bell button. I command you to do this. It's the most important thing you're ever going to do in your life. If you don't listen to me now and hear me later and go and subscribe, I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to shame you in front of your whole family. I'm going to go to your school and I'm going to chastise you in front of your friends. I'm going to go to your church. I'm going to stand in front of the whole congregation and I'm going to tell people how stupid you are for not going and subscribing to this channel. I tell you now, it's the most important thing you're ever going to do. You have to go and subscribe right now, otherwise my head is going to explode. Do it now, I command you.
All right, so let's see if any other questions have come up here. First, I want to click that off. Where is that? Boink. I want to get back to Edith Wave questions. How long does it take for someone to achieve a rainbow body? Let me give you a better question to ask. You go to the universe. First off, do you want that? Anything in life, here's what I found. Anything in life you must want with everything that you have. If there is an answer to that question that'll make you go, okay, well then I don't want it, then you're never going to get it. So like, how long does it take? If there's an answer to that question that makes you go, well, then I'm just not going to bother, then don't bother, because you will be talked out of it. Something will come up which will talk you out of it. That's true for anything. You want to become Mr. Olympia, you want to become president, whatever it is. Whatever your goal is, if you have anything other than, I'm going to do that no matter what it takes, even if it kills me, you have any other thought besides that, you're not going to achieve it. Excuse me. So the question you want to ask is, what do I need to do to accomplish this? Not how long, is there a faster way? Is there, because I get that question all the time. What's the best way? What's the most powerful? What's the fastest? I get those questions all the time. So you may have heard this, the Kung Fu student goes to the Kung Fu master or the karate master or whatever it is and says, Sensei, I want to become a black belt. What do I need to do? And the sensei says, oh, very good, grasshopper. What you need to do is you need to practice every day for an hour. And then the student says, well, how long will that take? And the sensei says, well, if you have the gift, it will take you 10 years. And he goes, oh, that's not fast enough. What if I practice 2 hours a day? Then the sensei goes, if you practice 2 hours a day, it'll take you 20 years. Well, what happens if I practice 3 hours a day? If you practice 3 hours a day, it'll take 40 years. Point is that you just got to do the practice. The question is, what do I need to do to achieve it? And what you need to do and what I need to do might not be the same thing. How long it takes you and how long it takes me might not be the same. I don't know how many lifetimes you've been working towards this. I can't tell you whether this is true or not because I don't know, but I remember when I was learning the art that I'm learning, I remember at one point stopping and going to my teacher, did you ever feel like you've done this before? He said, no. And if you feel that way, well then, lucky you. I think I've done this practice before. I think in a previous life I did it and got to a certain level, and I'm now trying to get to another level. I don't know how many lifetimes you've been working on whatever it is. So I have no idea how long it's going to take. The point is, what are you willing to do to improve your situation? To improve where you are? My ancestors, the Norse, had a saying that says, those that die in battle go to Valhalla. What that means is that those that are willing to die for achieving their greatest soul evolution, whatever that means to them, whatever that is, if you're willing to die for it, you achieve it. But you first have to be willing to die. So the question is, you go to the universe and you say, I'm willing to do absolutely everything and anything it takes to achieve the light body. What do I need to do today? That's the question to ask, not how long and what's the fastest. Bear in mind that every thought you have, no pressure, every thought that you have and you indulge in is a communication to the universe. So if you walk around with the communication of, I wish I found a faster way. What's the fastest way? What's the way that I can get with the least amount of effort? What's the way, the universe goes, it's standing here. It's got this shining plate full of, magical things. And you can't see it because you're walking past the universe going, what's the easiest, what's the fastest way? And the universe is like, it's right here. If you want it. And there's also this thing about, based on your past life, there's this thing called karma and dharma, your destiny. So there are some things you're destined for. So here's another really good question to ask the universe. Bring to me that which I am destined for that will bring me the greatest evolution. That's a really good question to ask. Because then you're not telling the universe when to do it, how fast, how slow. You're not doing any of that. You're just saying, I'm willing to do whatever. Bring me the next step. Say, you can ask that question. What is the next step of my evolution? Bring to me the teacher. Like somebody asked, can I do this without a teacher? It's the wrong question to ask. The right question is, bring to me the teacher that will take me to the next level of my evolution. If that happens to be by yourself, then you'll find that out. Most likely that won't be the case. Usually there's going to be somebody there, because there's this thing about karmic payoff. So again, this is a very Western concept, a very modern Western concept, and forgive me for saying so, a very immature, childish, selfish way to look at things. I mean, when I hear somebody ask, do I need a teacher? My first response is, who harmed you? Why are you so childish and afraid, like a hurt little kid, that you have to go do it by yourself? You're not willing to trust somebody to guide you towards a process. Who harmed you that has made you regress into such a childish place where you want to do it alone? It's saddening for me when I hear that. But when you have that kind of a question, the universe sighs and goes, because it has it. And here's the thing. There's this thing called karmic payoff. Now, any master out there, if there's a master teacher out there of anything, I guarantee you that master isn't saying, you know what, I'm just going to keep this knowledge to myself and I'm going to take it to the grave with me. There's no teacher that thinks like that. Every teacher is looking for at least one person that they can give their knowledge to. Because then once they've given away their knowledge, then they're karmically free and then they can achieve whatever they're going to achieve. And if you're going to achieve the light body, there's going to come some point where you're going to have to find at least one person to give your knowledge to. And then you'll be free to leave this universe. So another way to look at it is if you want to achieve this, you ask, who's the teacher out there who needs to give away this knowledge? Where is he or she? Guide me to the teacher who karmically needs to offload their knowledge. Do you see what I mean? How the way you ask the question changes everything. And the bottom line is you have to get out of yourself. You can't be a selfish child. The fastest way, can I do it by myself? What's the best way? Those are all very childish questions. They're selfish questions. So part of it is taking the joy in when your teacher, like when and if you get a teacher, your teacher will be imperfect, and or you will project imperfections onto the teacher. So there will be challenges. You meet a teacher, it's the most amazing teacher you've ever met. At some point, you're going to hate your teacher. And then at that point, you then understand, oh, I'm actually helping that teacher pay off their karma while I listen to them be an imperfect teacher. And so you sit and you listen. And you say, yes, Sifu, yes, teacher. And that way, your teacher offloads their karma, which is good karma for you. By allowing them to fulfill their karmic obligation, your karma points go up. Can't do that by yourself. Can't be selfish. Some of the most selfless people are students who allow teachers to teach them. There's been no shortage of times when I've sat on my hands while my teachers, whoever they are, said things, and in my mind I'm like, I know that already. I know, or gosh, you don't know what you're talking about. That's not what I meant. But inside, I just kept it inside, and I'd smile and I'd nod my head because I understood that they're fulfilling their karmic obligation to the universe. And it's my job to let them do that, and I learn when I do that. Plus, the other thing is that I would say at least 75% of the time that you think your teacher is talking nonsense and doesn't understand you, you're the one that doesn't understand what they're saying. That they're actually giving you some really valuable advice, but you're too stupid to hear it. And so it's good. It's just a good rule of thumb to just sit on your hands and nod when your teacher's talking to you. Let's see what else. Mr. Scott. So Mr. Scott does not embody any of the things that I've just said. My first question to you, Mr. Scott, why are you here? Seriously, why are you wasting your time? Go do something fun. I'm obviously not that thing for you. And it's okay with me that I'm not giving you what you need. I'll be okay. But you don't seem to be okay with it. Why don't you go do something else? You're so enlightened you can't even see how fake this pandemic is. Laugh out loud. I'll stick with channels like Infinite Waters. Okay, bye. See ya. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for showing us how not to do it. Anti-Kami, question. By the way, I changed your name. It's okay. You can have whatever, political leanings you want. But your name creates a connection. There's a reason why I have a spiritual name, Mahadeva. I'm just a human being, but I've given myself that name. That name has a very high vibration because that's where I want to go. Is that all you want, is to be anti-Kami? You've done it. There's nothing left to do. You're now anti-communist. Congratulations. Now what? It limits you. It limits you into a negative, that's bad. I don't like that. Well, what do you like? Anti-Kami question. Do you think the reptilians are going to try and sabotage your attempts at achieving the rainbow body? I could care less. What did I just say earlier? Welcome to the channel, by the way. Nothing can affect you without your unconscious permission. Whether that be politics, whether that be relationships, whether that be reptilians, demons, gods, marriage partners, nobody can do anything to you, positive or negative, without your conscious and or unconscious permission. So I don't give a shit what they want to do. They can try and do whatever the hell they want. It's not going to have any effect on me. If they end up in my field of vision or view or experience, then I go, look at what I've manifested. Now here's something I get to work with and against and overcome. Everything that you think is negative, if you go back and listen to what I said at the beginning of the video when I talked about all of your negative feelings, most people try to either run away from their negative feelings or conquer them by controlling things. Those are the two ways that people try to deal with feelings. The third way is to have all of them. So when anger comes up, you have the anger, and instead of going, I don't want to be angry, you go, I have all of this power flowing through me, which is anger. I'm going to transmute it into whatever its most powerful form is. So if reptilians show up in my frame of view trying to stop me, I'm going to go, there's a form of power called a reptilian which I can bring into myself and change that into something else. The Star Wars movies, as cheesy as they are, that's exactly what it is. Luke Skywalker goes into the cave and he sees himself. He takes his lightsaber and hacks off Darth Vader's head, and the mask comes up and it's him. You have to face your dark side. There's power there. There's power in whatever it is, anti-Kami, there's power in communism. If you can learn how to go in there and take the power from it and transmute it, but as long as you're against it, it will always rule you. Whatever it is that you want to separate from will always have power over you. That's why even if there aren't any communists, you will spend all of your time talking about the communist threat, the socialist threat, the Republican threat, the Democrat, whatever it is that's the other side of you. Even if that disappears, you'll always find them. And then by the more that you find them and talk about them, there's this thing called counter-transference in psychology, which is, let's say, counter projection. So let's say you, as a kid, you were told that you were a piece of crap. You internalize that. You walk into somebody and you project onto them that they're a piece of crap. Not only they're a piece of crap, but they are a judgmental piece of crap. And then you start telling somebody that they're a judgmental piece of crap. What ends up happening is that you create a counter projection where they then start to become judgmental towards you. And then they start judging you. And in other words, they bought into what you've told them to become. So all this, when you guys go out there, whatever it is that you're trying to protest against, you create. Whichever side you're on. And those of us who aren't on your side, whatever your side is, we can see that you're doing it. And that's why you can hear, oh my God, why can't you guys see how crazy you are? Both sides are doing it. When you see people at counter protests, they're looking at each other, they're both saying the same thing. Why can't you see how stupid you are? Because you create what you resist. Guy home. Question. Can I get the lockdown package next week? I don't know, can you? You're asking for my permission? What difference with the 90-day challenge? Should I grab both? Yes, you should grab both. The lockdown package is going away very soon. Very soon. So you'll be lucky if it'll be there next week. If it's there next week, I would grab it because it won't be there much longer. If it's still there. And yes, you should get the 90-day challenge. Why would I create something and then say you shouldn't get it? Of course you should get it. And yes, it'll be supplementary to the lockdown package. It's not like one and the same. Yes, the reason I created the 90-day challenge was because I'm constantly thinking, what can I do to give people an even, people ask the question, a faster, better way. I'm always looking for that. I'm always looking for how can I want you to get it. It saddens me when I see people come really close and then they disappear. They disappear just before they're about to get it, or they're going to get even closer and then they disappear on me. It saddens me and frustrates me. So I'm constantly trying to figure out how can I find a more effective way to get this to you so that you can get it. So that's what this is. I'm brewing up another one. Now that I'm practicing, I've got another one. I've got, there's going to be at least 3 levels of this 90-day challenge, and I'm working on level 2. And I'm going to start teaching things that I haven't taught up until this time, because, I have to be responsible with what I teach. And if I teach a really powerful method, I have to be able to make sure that there's a support system within that will allow you to, not be thrust into a Darth Vader situation, because you can become a Darth Vader if you. There's some stuff that I can't teach just because of the distance. I can only teach it in person. But even then, I will only teach some of these things unless I know that somebody can handle it. Because I don't want to have the karma of creating a Darth Vader. Because I've seen them. I got 3 in mind right now that I've seen who've turned themselves into Darth Vaders. And it's bad news for them. Let's see. So yes, you should grab both. Guy home, question. Is the oak rune is a different rune. So I only do the Elder Futhark. The oak rune is a different rune system. I think that's old English runes or something like that. Anglo-Saxon runes. I don't teach that. Yeah, so I would love to talk about the oak rune, but I don't teach the oak rune. So you can go on my channel and see what I do teach, but I only work with the Elder Futhark. And if you understand what I teach, if you've read my books, if you've listened to my videos, and I even talk about, my books on my channel, I've read my books on my channel. So if you don't want to buy the books, you can watch me talk about them. You'll understand that. Okay, so this is, forgive me, you won't see my mouth move here, but this is a rune wheel. So you can't use anything other than the Elder Futhark for this rune wheel to work. See that? If you use anything less than the Elder Futhark or anything more than the Elder Futhark, it won't fit. So those other Futharks, I'm not going to say that they don't have any power to them, because I think they might. You have to understand that the Anglo-Saxon runes and the younger Futhark, Those came after the Germanic languages started to shift into different pronunciations and into different dialects. But if we go back 2,000 years, like the first runic inscriptions, you find them speaking in all over the Germanic world, whether it's in continental Germanic tribes or the Scandinavian Germanic tribes. They were speaking a similar language, which is similar to Proto-Germanic. And the Proto-Germanic language only needed those 24 runes. So when you start getting into the younger Futhark, it's because their language was changing, words were changing, pronunciations were changing. Anglo-Saxon, the same thing. Their language was changing, their pronunciation was changing. So they added more to the alphabet so that they could express their particular dialect more appropriately. But the original 24 actually are the original sounds that were spoken in that language originally. And so there's a power to that. It hasn't deviated from its original power. So that's why I don't teach that. So I'm not saying for you, if you like the oak rune, by all means. I mean, there's some really cool Anglo-Saxon runes that I think are really awesome and cool. But they're usually just sort of like if you take a rune and sort of split it in half. Or in the case of the younger Futhark, you take two runes and smash them together. You're better off, in my experience, the 24 runes operate, like I said, from an eternal truth that just automatically link up in these three sets of 8. And that's there for a reason. Okay, let's see what else. So Glitch Baby, if you have a question, do me a favor, write the word question, because if you're surrounded by other stuff, I might miss your question. I don't want it. So how do you stop your unconscious mind from giving permission to unwanted situations? It's a really great question. Discipline. That's what that is. You have to have some kind of a discipline. You're not going to think your way out of it. You're going to have to face your unconscious mind. Any form of discipline will get you there. That's why anything of any value requires discipline. You want to learn how to surf. When I was a kid, there weren't surfing schools. I was 10 years old. I had a surfboard I could barely carry, and I went out surfing every day, every single day for 3 months, because in the summer vacation. So I just took my surfboard down to the beach and surfed every day. And by the end of that summer, I knew how to surf. Whatever it is you want to do, bodybuilding, martial arts, art, music, dance, it means you have to discipline. You have to do something every single day. Meditation. The form, people think meditation is, a lot of people say, I can't do meditation. I'll say, why? I say, because I can't empty my mind. I said, who said you were supposed to empty your mind? They said, well, isn't that it? I just go and empty my mind? I said, I don't know. I know that people say that, but that's not what meditation is. The empty mind is the result of your meditation. So if you're doing one of those emptiness meditations, it means you sit there and you watch and you experience all of the thoughts that come up and you learn not to attach to them. Now, I'll be honest, I can't do that kind of meditation. I'm a totally different person. I can't do that. I do energy work. Energy work, when I get full of energy and I have all that power flowing through me, that power gives me the ability to go into the emptiness. But if you just sit me down, if I'm not warmed up, if I haven't been doing a lot of energy work, I can't. I just can't do it. Mantra, that's one of the reasons I teach mantra, because mantra, you focus on the sound and you do the sound correctly and the sound will vibrate, and then when you're done with the mantra, then you sit in emptiness. Because you'll be buzzing with the energy of the mantra, and then you'll be in emptiness. But it takes discipline. So the question is, you can't stop your unconscious mind from giving permission to unwanted situations. If you create an unwanted situation, you stop and you go, wow, look at what I created. How did I do that? Why did I do that? It's a meditation. The meditation isn't when you're sitting down. The meditation is when you're walking through life. The people that you run into. Everything in your life is your own. This is your own holodeck from Star Trek. This is your holodeck. And the holodeck projector is your own unconscious that comes through your mind. So this is what having a teacher is about. This is what counseling is about. This is what psychology is about. Is when you go to your psychologist and you say, why do I keep attracting abusive men? And the psychologist will say, well, tell me about your relationship with your father. And then you go into that, and then you start to become aware. Oh, it's because when I was a kid, my dad did this, and I'm still trying to manifest my dad and fix that. And that's not enough. So then you have to meditate on that. So that's not enough. You have to do energy work. So how do you do it? I don't know how you do it. I know how I do it. No more questions? Okay, we can stop for today. All right, that's it for me, guys, for today. So I wish you all the best. There are ways out there to achieve this, but first thing you've got to do, let me just go over the basics. First thing you've got to do is you've got to look at your assumptions about the universe. And you have to drop any victim mentality. But first you may need to become aware of your victim mentality. In the beginning, let's go back to the beginning before people knew what I was talking about. They heard me talking like they do. This is why I tell people, don't just dump your opinion, because you're going to show me, your flaws right away. I'm going to know when, your need to throw your opinion out is going to show me what your flaws are. Let's see here. Fraudulent votes. I already know that guy. I already know that whoever wrote fraudulent votes is somebody who has a victim mentality. Because I haven't seen any evidence of it. So that's somebody who is already going into this thing looking for how they're going to be ripped off. And so anybody that comes along and says they're doing it to you, they're going to believe it. I already know that about that person. I don't know what that is. See what else. Anyway, there's some other things that were said. Yeah, I won't get into all of it. But whatever it is that you think that gives you the feeling that they're doing it to you, I don't care who they are, you've got a victim mentality. Listen, whatever you think is wrong with the world, I'm not denying that there aren't things that are wrong with the world. That's been going on from the beginning of time. We're in this election thing, and every single election that I've experienced in my entire 57 years of existence, every single one was the most important one. And if this one, we don't elect the right guy, it's going to ruin everything. And then if it's the guy that you didn't want, sure enough, it ruins something. If it's the guy that you did want and he's going to fix everything, he doesn't fix anything. So just stop expecting that. I don't expect anything to get fixed, and I don't expect corruption to go away. Because you're only afraid of corruption if your source is other people. If you are dependent upon a government or a system or a job or an employer to give you what you need, you are screwed. Because they will fail you at some point, perhaps horrifically. And if you're dependent upon them, it might mean the end of your life, your livelihood. So if you are in a position where you have a direct connection to the universe, where the universe provides everything that you need, then it doesn't matter what one government or one people or, it doesn't matter. I'll tell you, in my life, up until now, knock on wood, I've always been guided out of nasty situations. And I've always been taken care of. So I ended up here in Australia. If you've watched me from the beginning, a year and a half ago, you can see videos of me. If you go back more than a year and a half, you'll see me talking about getting ready to give up everything, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to sell everything, and I'm going to get on a plane, and I'm going to go to Australia, and I'm going to try and stay there for as long as I can. I don't know, but that's it. And I want to go surf, and I want to live in the forest by the beach, and that's the best place for me to do it. So I'm going to go, and wish me luck. And then what happened? I got here, and I'd been here for a few months, and then COVID hit. And the worst place that I could have been would have been where I was, which was Manhattan Beach, Los Angeles County. One of the worst places in the world to be. I'd be stuck there right now. And here, Queensland, because these guys had their shit together, they locked down the whole country, and they have restricted even travel within Australia, and there's nothing. I don't have to wear a mask. I can shake people's hands. I can hug them. I mean, there's no COVID here that I have to worry about. The rest of people, a lot of people in the world, they're having to deal with it. And the reason is because the universe always takes care of me. The universe knew what was coming and made me want to leave California. I didn't know why. I just had to get the hell out. And I had to go to Australia. Not only Australia, but here in Australia. Other places in Australia, it's not so good. But right here where I'm at, paradise. It's because my life is not dependent upon other things. Anti-commie, who gives a shit if they're commies or not? You could live in a communist country and live like a king and have everything you want. You can live in the most freedom, democracy country you want and be miserable as shit. Talk to Native Americans a couple 100 years ago, 100 years ago, today. Talk to anybody who was a slave while a bunch of rich white men had democracy. They were slaves. I mean, you could be in the perfect place and still have a shit life. And you can be in a really shit scenario and have the best life. It all depends on if you're connected to the universe. You can't be connected to the universe if you're a victim. You can't do it. So drop the whole victim mentality. It won't serve you. I'm not saying be stupid. I'm not saying not have discernment. I'm not saying that. Just saying just stop wasting your time. Everything you fight, you become, and everything you fight will control you. Always. So stop fighting. Just work on connecting to the universe, and the universe will pick you up and take you wherever will be the most pleasurable place that you can imagine. I can tell you from experience, that's how it works. And then you can ask, what can I do? Show me what I can do today that will give me the greatest evolution. If you want to achieve the rainbow body, say, show me what I can do today. Guide me to the teaching, the teacher, the practice. And then whatever it is, don't try and get to the end game. Just try and do what is in front of you. And I'm doing the best I can to give you all that I can. There's more stuff coming. All right. Did any other questions come through while I was... No. Let's see. Yeah, that's not a real question. What is this? Why is that? Oh, there it is. Mesomorph Negro, where did you get the idea that I'm a white supremacist? Where did you get that? I'd like for you to go talk to my African drum teacher and ask him if I'm a white supremacist. I teach Yoruba African drumming. It's very hard to master that and be a white supremacist. I teach Taoist mysticism, and I had Asian teachers. Pretty hard to be a white supremacist and do that. It's also pretty hard to be a white supremacist and be married to a half Chinese woman, and then be my fiance who passed away. She was Jewish. It's pretty hard for me to be a white supremacist and all that. So that's pretty It shows your ignorance and your unwillingness to even look at what's on my channel. What the hell could I possibly have said to bring you to that? Are you a racist because I said that I was of Norse descent? Does that mean I'm a racist? All right. Renee, Battle Woman of the Woods. No, okay, there you go. All right, yeah, I let that offend me. I find that very offensive. So you're going to have to sit on that, man. The karma of just saying that to me is going to have to sit on you. Anyway, so there, I'm going to let you sit with that fart that you just let out, and you get to smell your fart for a while. So I'll let you sit with that, and then when it stops stinking, I won't be angry with you anymore. All right, so that's it for me. I don't see any other questions. I'm ready to move on. So thank you very much, guys. I'll see you all real soon.